Imagine being taken from your home or from your family, sold off to a complete stranger, and then forced to perform sexual acts. This happens every day to innocent people who are sold for sexual activity to people at sporting events, such as the Super Bowl, the Olympics, and the World Cup. Sex trafficking is a violation of human rights because it takes people's freedom away as they are sold off at sporting events. To fix this problem, we can increase security at these events and teach the guards how to recognize sex trafficking. This could also be done on planes where air marshals and flight attendants are taught to recognize sex trafficking and alert law enforcement. This would prevent victims and their captors from ever reaching the sporting events. Sex trafficking in sporting events involves both sex traffickers and victims from both genders and all ages. Primarily, victims of sex trafficking tend to be mostly women and children. In fact, 50 women and 16 children were rescued from the last Super Bowl, and the year prior to that, 14 women were rescued. Much of sex trafficking happens in the United States, and even when people are brought internationally to the U.S., 71% come by plane. Many victims are transported along with drugs. Traffickers are everywhere, and it is very hard to spot one, but most of them tend to be older men, anywhere from their 60s to 30s. Since trafficking is illegal, most traffickers are paid cash, which could be a sign of illegal activity that they do not want tracked. Overall, the people involved are men who traffic women and children to these events, making enormous amounts of money in a few days. A large number of people are involved in sex trafficking, a business that makes them wealthy. Over 21 million people globally are involved in sex trafficking. Recently, projects are being carried out to identify 15,000 missing people. The salary of a sex trafficker working for others is $75,000, and a total of 150 billion US dollars has been made from illegal sex trafficking. The number of people who go missing a year depends on the number of high-profile sporting events. From the last sporting events, 15,000 people went missing and are now trying to be identified using DNA tests. It is hard to find an exact number because many people involved in sex trafficking are illegals, which means they are undocumented. Sex trafficking is a very common illegal act used at certain popular sporting events, including Super Bowl, Olympics, and the World Cup, which attract many people over a few days. Sex trafficking abductions tend to occur more in third world countries where people are more vulnerable. In the United States, much of sex trafficking happens in New Jersey, which is considered the most likely place in the United States for sex trafficking to occur. Since most of sex trafficking occurs at sporting events, it is important to know which sporting events are most common to have sex trafficking. In the United States, the most common sporting event is easily the Super Bowl. In fact, police arrested 750 people who were involved in sex trafficking at the last Super Bowl. Internationally, there are two sporting events that draw in the most sex trafficking globally. These two events are the FIFA World Cup and the Olympic Games. The FIFA World Cup brought in a lot of illegal earnings for people in the 2014 Cup because it was in Brazil, which brings in a lot of business because of its convenient location in a third world country, which has a lot of poverty, which contributes to women and children's vulnerability. The Olympic Games also bring in a lot of trafficking because it is the largest global sporting event, which means it is very easy to sneak people in and out without security necessarily noticing. It also takes place over a few weeks, so ample time for making money. Sex trafficking is one of the most illegal ways to make money and is so hard to truly identify a sex trafficker. Because sex trafficking is common and hurts so many, efforts must be made to stop it by increasing the knowledge of who is involved and how to prevent it. Spotting a sex trafficker can be very difficult and may be noticed by who they are traveling with to raise certain concerns. If there is a man who is accompanied by a woman or child who looks scared and or looks out of place, that is a sign that the person may be a sex trafficker. Stopping sex trafficking completely is very difficult, and considering how many people are involved, one way to stop it is by informing people about how to pick up clues and alert those who can make an arrest and stop it before it gets too late. Delta Airlines is now showing videos to passengers on how to spot sex trafficking, as well as training air marshals and flight attendants on how to deal with sex trafficking. Uber drivers are also being trained to spot sex trafficking so that they can save people's lives who may be transported in their cars. Although sex trafficking is very hard to spot, this does not mean that it is impossible to prevent it or save victims by speaking up. If someone is forced to have sex against their will and in a sense kidnapped, it is a clear violation of human rights. Stopping this problem includes increasing general security on planes and across the borders. Throughout awareness and defense, we can tackle this serious problem and make sporting events what they are meant to be and not an unchecked venue for sex trafficking.